Welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. It's episode 34. I'm Ryan Sir. With me, as always, is Don Helbig. Don, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to see the calendar turn to March because that means the cold weather somewhat is behind us. A lot to look forward to. Parks opening up, baseball season starting. So always glad when the calendar turns to March.
Yeah, March is, I think we're like 19 days from spring as of the time of this recording or so. So that's exciting. I love this time of year because there's nothing but things to look forward to. So, with that being said, we have a very special show for you and a really cool guest that we've been wanting to have for a while. But before we get started, remember to subscribe to us on YouTube. So you can see the video version of the show because the video is way cooler because we're all so handsome on here. Um, Make sure you encourage your friends to give us a listen or watch us on YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. If you prefer audio, then we're on all your major podcast apps, and you can find us on Twitter at attractions_GRP. Now, Don and I have decided to open up the show for sponsorship packages. If anyone's interested in doing that, just send us a DM on Twitter and we'll discuss it with you. Attractions_GRP once again. Just send us a DM and we'll kind of discuss the package we had in mind if you want to reach this particular demographic of people. So, with that being said, we have a very special guest on, somebody that's very well known in the coaster community, but is now riding on the other side of the fence in a lot of ways. Clint Novak was originally part of the In the Loop podcast for many, many years. And he's, been all around the buck as far as coaster enthusiast stuff. But now he's the GM of Funland at Fredericksburg in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is a large scale FEC. So we're really excited to have him on. So Clint, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
We're thrilled to have you. Thank you for being on the show.
I'm excited. I did not come dressed and prepared for this particular podcast, which I apologize for. But I had planned on being in your dress code, but I missed out. So
Well,
I
if you don't get
apologize.
invited back, you'll know why.
Exactly.
I know. I'm in my Funland uniform. How boring.
Right.
Once we
And
have,
my uniform doesn't even come with the beanie either. So I don't have my beanie on.
we're going to
It's on
address the
car.
beanie later in the show, Clint. Don't worry about that at all.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But Clint, to get things started, your journey to becoming the GM of Fredericksburg Funland, it started with a Facebook post. So tell us about that.
So it is really crazy, and you never know what is going to lead to something bigger and better and all of that kind of stuff. But many years ago, I believe 11 years ago, and it just passed, I think this week, right? It just passed this week. 11 years ago, I took a picture of a tilt-a-whirl in the Funland parking lot. And I posted it, on In the Loop and all of that stuff. And hey, Funland's getting a tilt-a-whirl. Got all excited. And I got a message from the general manager of Funland saying, "Hey, what's going on? Why did you take pictures of the tilt-a-whirl in the parking lot, and why are you making a big deal out of it?" And I explained to him that I'm a coaster enthusiast. I'm local. I passed by, saw it, took pictures, and he was like, "I would like you to come in and talk to me." And I'm like, oh no, I'm in trouble. That's what I was thinking. And so I come in, and he wanted to pick my brain more about social media marketing. And this is 11 years ago. So social media obviously was big at the time, but the marketing aspect of it, I don't think really was. And so I just told him what I do. I had the YouTube channel within the Loop, and we had the podcast and all of that stuff going on. And he was really intrigued by it. And so I said, well, I would love to come up and do some videos and pictures for you guys and help you out. And so I started doing that. And the person who was their sales marketing guy at the time really didn't use any of the content I was creating. So I didn't think it was going to really go anywhere. And then fast forward, I was looking to get out of DJing at bars and stuff, which that's what I was doing at the time. And they lost their sales marketing guy. So I was like, hey, maybe this would be a good fit. And so I interviewed for a position as a manager. I was then rejected for that position. And then I said, well, I'm going to IAPA for a week. And when I come back, I need a job because I'm not going to work in the bars anymore. And so that's when I came back, and I started as a ride attendant at Funland. And 3 months later was immediately upgraded to manager. And within a year of becoming the manager, I became the general manager. And so it was all because of that post that got me in the door, so to speak, to where I am today. And you never know where these things are going to lead.
Yeah, Clint, there's a great message too for everyone out there. If you're interested in working in the industry, a lot of people, they want to come in, they want to start out at the top, they want to be the general manager, they want to be a director. But you started out in rides and worked your way up, and that's really the best way to go about it. Just get your foot in the door, and
Yeah,
then if you do well, I mean, it's a great opportunity to just go as far as you want.
I really think the people who are the most successful are the people who are looking at the park perspective as a guest. And really that's what I am. I'm at King's Dominion whenever I'm not here. I go to other FECs and visit them and become friends with them and all that. But it's, really the reason why I'm so successful is because I'm such a fan of the industry. And I'm able to take all of the knowledge that I learned from being a fan of the industry and able to turn that into something that has been very successful here. But if you look at like Jeffrey down at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, and there's so many people who started in one position. There's so many stories out there where they started in Pat Jones at King's Dominion and now Carowinds and one of the regional park presidents is she started in games at King's Dominion. So it's like you never know where it's going to lead from there, as long as you have a passion and a drive for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very inspirational story. Your memoir could be From In the Loop to In the Door. That's what I would call it.
Well,
I'm
I'm
here
not
all
done
week. I'm
yet.
here
I'm
all
not
week.
done yet. When we do this podcast 10 years from now, and I'm the Kings Dominion Park president, then I will have hit the pinnacle.
Then you'd be memorial worthy. Well, okay, so speaking of Funland specifically, just based on the things that you've been posting on your personal social media as well as the social media of Funland itself, it looks like since you've become GM, like that place has grown exponentially. What do you attribute that to?
Well, the owner has a lot of faith in me in my team, and really, it's not just me. I post a lot of this stuff, but I couldn't have done any of this without the team that I have, and a lot of the people here, like my AGM Damon, he came from King's Dominion, worked there for like 20 years. Our director of maintenance worked at King's Dominion for 20 years. His wife, who worked at King's Dominion for 20 years, works here now. There's a lot of people who helped Funland grow, who are big fans of the industry, and it's because of that team effort, that passion for the industry is the reason why we've really been able to grow. And we've had some great ideas and some great success, and we've had some terrible ideas and some poor success. So we're just lucky that the good ideas have been big, and the terrible ideas have been minuscule. So it's like, we didn't dump a ton of money into the bad ideas, but the good ideas we have gotten return on. So, and yeah, I mean, there is not a lot left here at the park of the original park, let alone the park when I started 8 years ago. There's very few things left here at the park that was here 8 years ago. A lot of the arcade games that are 8 years old are now gone. Got rid of that kind of clutter and stuff. Got a lot of new games coming in and freshening up all the time. Most of the rides and attractions have been plussed, updated, renovated. All of that kind of stuff in order to make sure that we're still giving the best guest experience. And all of those things keep paying off because we keep getting better and better, and that lets us do bigger and better things like the go-kart track or the 2 new SBF Visa rides we just put in, which it's a lot of money to do those things. And we're excited to keep growing and expanding and seeing what we can do next to make the guest experience even better.
Well, you mentioned the go-kart track and the SBF Visa rides. What went into the decision to have those particular rides there?
So it's a lot of like I hate to say it, it's like gut feelings, because like with the go-kart track, we knew we wanted to do something big. And Damon and myself pitched to the owner, Chuck, the idea of doing a multi-level go-kart track. And he was like, why, this can't be a big deal. And I said, okay. He said, well, take me to a go-kart track. And I said, well, first of all, there's none in Virginia. I said, then I said, let's fly to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and I will show you 35 go-kart tracks within a 5-mile stretch. And almost all of them are multi-level go-kart tracks. So we got to see a wide variety of go-kart tracks in different ways they were made. But we knew, I mean, at least I knew that the style of track I wanted was very similar to what Fun Spot does down in Florida. Wood construction, but smooth concrete on top of it to give the go-karts a nice smooth ride. So that trip to Pigeon Forge was in July of 2018. We opened our go-kart track in June of 19. So 11 months later, from us saying we should build a go-kart track to us finishing and opening the go-kart track was 11 months. That was massive. And really, John Aries down at Fun Spot was very kind to give us some input as to how to do it. They have, I guess, a patent on the process that we used, so they allowed us to build the track similar to theirs as well. I'm really excited, and it was a huge hit. And it's funny because it wasn't a huge hit the weekend we opened it. Like, I was planning on overflow parking and doing all this stuff for the first weekend it opened, and it was like a dud. Like, nobody showed up the first weekend, and I was like, oh no, we just spent $1 million on this go-kart track, and our sales were up like 10%. What are we going to do? And then the next weekend we doubled the sales on a Saturday than the best Saturday we ever had. We doubled it in one day, and it was like, now what are we? It was a whole different problem. And it's a problem you don't anticipate when you're running a facility, because, when you're running Roller Coaster Tycoon and things like that, or pretending in your head how to run an amusement park, you don't think of the operations and logistical things that happen. When you double the amount of people in the park, you double the amount of trash that's being made. And so we had to up our trash pickup to twice a week because we were creating so much trash. But you also have to make twice as much food. And so it's like, oh, how do we store the food? Because we can't store that much food in our freezer. So we had to have 2 or 3 deliveries a week. And it was like all these logistical things you don't think about. The impact of having more people at your park, that will have a big impact. We didn't have any more parking. We had to have parking attendants, helping us on Saturdays because our lot only has 200 spots, and it was full. So we'd have to park people across the street and other places and make sure that people were parking in the appropriate places. So just a whole bunch of crazy stuff. But really, it was a huge success. I mean, we knew not the weekend we opened it, but the week after that, we saw the press of DC news stations coming down and doing videos, and Elliot in the morning had us on one morning. So that's really when we knew, oh, okay, it is going to be a big deal. And it was really big.
Yeah, I love go-karts. I think they're just so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. And to attest to the Airy family, I've actually had interactions with them on a business level, and you couldn't find a better group of people to work with. They're just fantastic. But speaking of, aside from the go-karts, you've added a bunch of other rides too, and almost all of them, or maybe all of them, are from the SBF Visa brand of ride, shall we say. I don't know why I said that so awkwardly. Tell us about your relationship with SBF Visa and what's been like to work with them.
Well, yeah. So we put in, we have the clip and climb ropes course and RCI, clip and climb climbing walls, RCA ropes course. When we were looking at doing clip and climb years ago, we the owner, I wanted to do the SBF spin coaster, and Chuck was very lukewarm on it. It's a $400,000 investment, and we just weren't quite there yet. We didn't want to put that much into something and not know if it'd have a return. And we were putting in clip and climb, and I was designing like where the layout in the building was going to go. And I said, well, Chuck, I just want to let you know, right now where clip and climb is, if we did want to put the roller coaster in, there's only one spot in the whole building it will fit because of the beams for the ceiling. It would have to go here. And if we did that, we'd have to move clip and climb 4 feet in one direction in order to fit it. He goes, well, Clint, we're not putting in the SBF spin coaster. And I said, okay, but if we wanted to, we need to make sure we move that 4 feet. He goes, you can go ahead and move it 4 feet, but we're not putting in the SBS spin coaster. And a week later, we had a deposit on an SBS spin coaster. So it was crazy. Like we turned around, looked at it, bought it. We went to other facilities and looked at it, iPlay and some other places. And we always went on like a Wednesday at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's no guests there, and they turn it on, they'd run it. We're like, oh, it's a super quiet ride. We're going to put it right next to the birthday party rooms. It'll be great because it's super quiet. The only thing we didn't anticipate is that the people on it are not super quiet. They're yelling and screaming and having a great time. And so it is a very loud attraction because of them screaming and yelling, but the actual operation of the attraction is not. And that's really what started our relationship with SBF Visa and Rides for You, who's their broker in the U.S. And we just continue that relationship. We had other plans for 2023. We wanted to do that Soaring Eagle the Soaring Eagle drop tower saddle sling ride. And I went through 3 years of city ordinance changing and getting a special use permit to be able to do that. But unfortunately, the timing just was not right after the 3 years to move forward on that project. And so we had that money set aside, ready to go for that project. And we turned around and looked at Rides for You and said, what can we do for this amount of money? And these 2 rides were right up our alley. So we've had a couple days of preview operations with them, and right now it looks like the drop tower is the more popular of the 2, which that's kind of what we thought, because the flip side definitely looks very intimidating when you watch it. It's a pendulum ride that goes upside down, but it goes upside down with a lot of force, and when you're looking at it on the ground, it's like it's almost scary. Even for like me, a coaster enthusiast. But the airtime that you get on it is really weird, because as it's going up to its peak, it's like throwing you over. So it's like you're just getting this floating airtime through the whole upper part of the ride, and it's crazy. But so that's really what started it, and we're excited for March 10th when we open these up for general public and regular use. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know I brought this story up to you at IAPA and you didn't remember, but long story short, with the spinning coaster at IAPA, probably 5 years ago at this point, I went to a dinner, and I don't want to name any companies or anything, but a large FEC company was there. We were there as friends. It wasn't a business meeting, and one of the owners was like, we looked at that spinning coaster. It looks really fun, and I bet we can make money. I just don't know. And I was like, I know somebody that works for an FEC that has one. So I sent you a Facebook message and I said, how does it, what's maintenance like? Is it popular? And you're like, dude, you want it. So I went
Yeah.
up and I was like, hey, I just talked to a friend of mine that's GM of an large FEC in Virginia. And he said that, one of the best decisions he's made, that sort of thing. And like, okay, cool. They have 5 now. So thank you for that, first of all. Secondly, they still credit me for like, "Hey, thanks for recommending that to us," even though it was just off the Valor, so it's a little bit
That
of
means
stolen valor.
you owe me a dinner somewhere, like Skyline Chili or
Hey,
something, right?
you're on. I
There you
will
go.
buy you Skyline, absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Clint.
crazy because the SBF spin coaster, like if you're coming to Funland, you're like, oh, I got to go do the go karts. But the number one ride every single day is the spin coaster. The spin coaster this past Saturday did like 650 rides, where the second place was our go kart track at like 300. So it doubled the amount that our go kart track did in second place. We have 17 rides and attractions. So it's shocking how many people ride that spin coaster. It's just over and over and over again. It's great.
It's a beautiful ride. It's a good looking ride. It's just thrilling enough. It's fun to watch. It's fun to ride. I think they've really got like a home run on their hands. I think that's such a cool ride.
So here's a crazy question for all of us coaster enthusiasts. Uh, is SBF Visa the number one roller coaster manufacturer in the country right now?
If it's not, it's up there.
Well, here's the funny
Because
thing.
I know like 3 years ago or 4 years
Yeah.
ago, they had 68 spin coasters in the US, which I mean, that's a ton of coasters, but I mean, that has to have doubled at this point.
Oh yeah, it's funny because I the first, especially the first time you go to IAPA, and maybe both of you can sympathize or tell me I'm nuts, but you see a bunch of these companies, especially roller coaster manufacturers, and you're like, oh, that's not Intamin, that's not B&M, those are knockoffs, you know. So basically, like everything to you that your home park doesn't have, it's like it's Wisdom Rides or not Wisdom, Golden Horse is what I was thinking of.
Mhm.
Wisdom Rides is good, but like Golden Horse, like this is all knockoff stuff. So that's what I thought about SBF. I was like, I've never heard of these people, but it's one of those things, like kind of like when you buy a new car and you see all the other people on the road that had the same car as you, and you're like, where did all these people get these Ford Mustangs? But it's just because like now it's brought your attention to it. I can't unsee all the SBF Visa spinning coasters all around the FECs, the small amusement parks. There's, you know, the one in Myrtle Beach has one, like that. They're
Mhm.
like they're kind of like you guys. They got all SBF stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
well,
it's
I
cool
mean,
stuff.
there is a the Funplex down in Myrtle Beach is an SBF Visa like factory park.
Yeah,
Like everything there is SBF Visa, all the rides.
yeah.
So it's crazy.
And they have, like, pretty much every ride they offer, and it's, like, apparently there's nowhere to walk because it's such a small space, but
Oh,
they have so many rides, so
I I did a YouTube video there. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. You should definitely go and check it out. They have a bar like right in the middle of the park, but I don't really think they plan for the amount of people that go into the park. So it's like if you sat every seat on every ride, it would be like 150 people. But they can't. 150 people can't fit on the midway there because
right.
it's so small, and so there's no way they're ever going to actually fill the capacity of the rides because they can't get that many people in the park. So
Yeah.
it's
I
crazy.
mean, maybe
But
it
the
is a
rides are
prototype.
awesome. I mean, really good. I love the compact layout of it. I wish it was just a little bigger to give more space. But you know, the layout of it is really cool. The lighting effects at night are just crazy because they're all new rides with all new lighting.
Mhm.
So it is really cool. A really cool park to go visit.
Does SBF Visa own the park, or do they just happen to have
No, it's owned by a company. They have two parks in New Jersey called Funplex.
Okay.
So they had one. They have one that's close to Diggerland, which is just south of Pittsburgh. No, Philadelphia.
Okay.
Sorry, just south of Philadelphia, and then they have another one that's close to New York City on the New Jersey side. And they're indoor outdoor parks with water parks attached to them.
Wow.
So you know they're FECs that kind of turned into amusement parks and then turned into water parks. And then they decided to expand. One year, Rides for You did a booth at IAPA that was basically an amusement park with a roller coaster going around it. And they just took that idea and took all of the rides there and said, that's what we're going to do in Myrtle Beach. And they expanded on it, put in some bigger rides, took the rides that were on the show floor there and the roller coaster and expanded the roller coaster to fit the footprint.
Very neat.
Yeah, Clint, you know, working in the industry, and whether it's the attractions, entertainment industry, uh, it's a lot of fun, but it's incredibly hard. So, in your position, what are some of your biggest challenges?
Oh man, there's challenges all the time. You know, putting in the new rides was very challenging. You know, there's a lot of different things that we had to do with these rides that we didn't have to do in previous installs. And so we had several different contractors. We had electricians and we had or not general contractors, but the people who were doing the cement work and we had the city and we had engineers who had to engineer all this stuff. And I was kind of the general contractor of all of it. And it was much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Um, because sometimes contractors don't like to work together, oddly enough, and so it's like their priority is always the priority, and you know, so sometimes they want to flex their muscles over the other one, and so it sometimes was frustrating, but you know, it was definitely worth it once we got the riders on the ride and started seeing the positive effect it's going to have for Funland. You know, there's yeah, that's really, you know, that was one of the, I guess, most recent things. But otherwise, I really enjoy what I'm doing, and so it's like sometimes, I mean, I guess I complain that some of the stuff is hard, but really, in the end, I'm running an amusement park, and you know, every day I enjoy coming to work. I enjoy doing the things that we're doing, and then I enjoy going to King's Dominion, and I enjoy hanging out with my enthusiast friends and talking about all of this crazy stuff that we got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Uh, Quite a life lived, you know. I mean, it's one thing to be a coaster enthusiast, but also it's another thing to, get to do what you want to do and, face the challenges from the other side of the fence. But so one of your famous tropes, and I told you we'd bring this up, is the helicopter hat. I
Okay.
remember you posting on Facebook at some point that I think that came from Cedar Point. Can you expand on the helicopter hat, please?
Sure. So I don't know the years. The years kind of meld together, but really, I believe it was 2000 when Millennium Force opened, was the very first Cedar Point trip I had taken from Minnesota to Cedar Point to do Millennium Force. Waited 6 hours in line to do the coaster, and I don't know if it was that trip. I know the beanie didn't come up in that trip, but I bought a silly like gesture Joker hat to wear around, and it was like a 3-day trip, and that was the first like Clint Novak beanie. Um, and I'd wear it to, at the time I wasn't really a coaster enthusiast. I just had Valley Fair, and then we wanted to go ride this big coaster in Ohio. And then the next year, I had the Joker hat, and it got like really hot at Cedar Point. And I was like, "This is cotton; it's unbearable. I can't wear this anymore." And that's when I found the beanie hat. And so it was like 2 or 3 years later. So maybe like 2003 is when the beanie came in. But so there's the Joker hat, which I still have. It's in like one of my collector boxes, and I have the very first beanie I ever purchased as well in one of the boxes. Um, my home park, Kings Dominion, started. It was Paramount Kings Dominion at the time. They sold propeller beanies as well, so I had a whole box of Paramount hats that I had at one point. Because when they went out of, or when Cedar Fair took over, they did a mass sale on all their Paramount stuff. So I bought a whole bunch of those, and now I buy premium ones. I know they have premium adult beanies with propellers on them. I buy the premium ones because they last much longer, and they're more like a real hat instead of a something they threw together with a beanie on top of it. So that's where I have the beanie now. I go Amazon. It's like $16 on Amazon for my adult premium propeller beanie.
Perfect, perfect. I've always been curious about that, but I've seen many photos of you.
Now, Clint, you've added a new ride recently, an SBF Visa Drop Tower. It was featured on the IAPA floor. Ryan and I had a chance to look at it, really liked it. But how has that installation gone for you?
Well, so it was a dual installation. So we were installing that at the same time we were installing the flip side, which is an SBF Visa Mini Dance 360. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you bought the one that was on the IAPA floor," and yes, that is true. But we bought it like 3 or 4 months before IAPA even happened, and so the way that goes down is basically we said, "Okay." We were interested in purchasing a ride, and we knew what we wanted to do. We knew that we wanted the drop tower, and it fit into what Rides for You wanted to display at IAPA. And so then they're able to, make deals with us as to, can they use it for a week and then have it go to our place, and then, that would cover shipping or something like that. And so, we were able to make a deal where our ride was the one that was displayed at IAPA. So that way, going into the show, they don't have to worry about, oh, are they going to sell the ride? Do they have to ship it back to England? Do they have to store it in the U.S. until they could sell it? No, it was already sold. So they just get to put it up, run it for the week, and then it arrived. The trade show floor ended at what, 5 on Friday or maybe 4 on
Yeah,
Friday.
I think 4.
It was in our parking lot at 8 a.m. on Monday morning.
Hmm.
So the speed that they can work over at that trade show floor is crazy. But I'm very excited to get that. That was the last piece of our puzzle. The Midi Dance 360 actually went up in November, so that went up in November. Then we had to wait until the Patriot Plunge arrived, and we got that put up towards the end of December. And then other stuff got into play, power issues, and all of that kind of stuff. And we were able to start doing some major testing and stuff towards the end of January. And we've been very lucky with weather. It's been a very mild winter for us. So no crazy cold nights and no snow or anything like that.
You'll take it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm we're this weekend we're looking at 70 possibly on Saturday. And so yeah, we want to break in the new rides a little more this weekend, get a couple hours each on them and get some training done with some of our staff. And yeah, so we got a lot of stuff going on with them.
Yeah, yeah, I bet you guys will be packed this weekend with how good the weather is. It's probably pretty weather dependent. Um, yeah, I mean, so for those of you who haven't been to IAPA, the SBF Visa Group, well, or Rides for You, I don't know who owns the booth. That's like 10% of the biggest show floor you'll ever see. They've got a roller coaster, a drop ride. What was the little airplane thing that flipped? Do you remember the manufacturer's name for that?
Well, I don't remember the name of it, but that was SBF Visa,
It
and
was. Yeah.
it's them and
Yeah.
Zimperla go back and forth for booth size every year, and I believe this year Rides for You had the biggest booth, but yeah, they always bounce back and forth depending on what they're bringing and what's going on as to who gets to outshine who. But SBF Visa and Rides for You, they always bring the most rides. So I think they had the coaster, our ride, the plane ride, and then the super surge or whatever they call it. So I think they had like 4 major rides, which that's a big deal.
Yeah, the Super Surge. I forgot about that. That was the thing about their rides is they look cool and stuff, but you kind of for some of them, like the Super Surge, that's the one that spins and kind of pops up in the air, right?
Yeah, yeah, it looks like yeah, it has a weird center thing. The seats face out, and it just
Right.
spins around, then goes up in the air. Yeah.
Because I remember with both that and on the other end is the Zamperla ride. Help me out here. Uh,
Oh, the weird clock
yeah,
gear thing.
I
Yeah,
thought with
I
both of those, they look cool from the outside, but the ride experiences, whatever. They were both like so fun. They were really cool rides. Um, Speaking of, adding rides and stuff like that. So you're to the point now where you're indoor outdoor. You've got rides, you've got go-karts and several different facets. So you're a very large FEC. What do you
mhm.
think in your mind, from your perspective, draws the line between an FEC and a full-blown amusement park?
Wow. I think we're gonna have to go back to Fun Spot. I think they're the ones who kind of drew that line. Once you get a major coaster, I believe that's when you switch from FEC to amusement park. So SBF Visa Spin Coaster, I don't think counts. I think that's going to stay in the kiddie range or family range. So I think really what's going to draw the line is if we were able to get a some type of major coaster.
So that's when you're going to get your RMC just to get that title, right?
Sure.
Sure.
Yes.
T-Rex confirmed. You heard it here first, everybody.
It's funny
All
because
right.
everybody always wants to know, like, oh, when are you going to do the RMC and da da da, and our issue is well, okay, price is the issue. I mean,
Right.
obviously that number one is price. To buy a coaster like an RMC or even a really small Intamin or a Gerschlauer compact, something like that is going to be in the 5 to 7 million range if we're lucky,
Mhm.
and that doesn't include install. That is just the ride, and maybe not even shipping.
Right.
So it's like, okay, shipping, then you get the ride here, build it. You're looking at least 10% of the actual cost of the ride goes into construction of it.
Mhm.
So you're looking at possibly a $10 million investment. The other issue is space. Like we have 200 parking spots right now. With the capacity that we have on Saturday, we will fill every single one of those spots all day. But when you're in the park, it doesn't feel busy because we don't have enough parking. And so, we don't want to invest a $10 million budget into a coaster that we won't be able to get enough people on to get a return on it. And so, we're kind of landlocked in the sense that we can't buy more land and build a parking lot. So we don't have that ability. Some people have said build a parking garage. Parking garages cost $20,000 to $30,000 per spot to build, and it's just not cost effective for us to be able to build a parking lot to house more cars in order to do bigger things. So for us at Funland of Fredericksburg, I have some thoughts as to what I would like to do, and it's just a matter of, will we ever be able to do it? I don't know, but RMC probably not. I'd love to see some type of thrilling coaster though come in and see what we could do.
Clint, you said what you'd like to do. So let's tap into your key learnings from Funland over the years. So if you were to open a large FEC, what would be your must-haves on the list of games, rides, and attractions? So you could go anywhere. You're starting from scratch. What are you putting in?
Wow. Well, I would mimic a lot of what we've done here. Multi-level go-kart track would be the first thing out the door. I would try to do multiple ones and have a bigger pit. Like right now, we have 32 cars on our big track, and we have the ability to double pit, which means you can have cars on the track and cars loading. But if I could expand that station to 40 cars and do 20 and 20, I would. But we don't have that capability right now. So I would do that. My dream, and this is before we did the multi-level go-kart track. This conversation actually happened. I called Adam House, and at the time he was with Great Coasters, and I said, "Could we build a wood coaster that intertwined with a go-kart track?" So multi-level go-kart track with a wood coaster, and they just intertwine and go crazy with each other, kind of like a dueling wood coaster. And there was some thoughts thrown in and out, and then he gave a basic idea of what a price tag would be, and the coaster immediately went away. And so that would be like if I had like the dream, like empty, or a full bank account, and I didn't have to worry about anything like that. I'd be like, oh, I'm getting Adam back so he can design a crazy go-kart track roller coaster for us. But no, the super successful things are the SBF Visa rides, the coaster, the arcade would be a big factor of that. I'd be looking at like 100 to 150 games in the arcade. Mini golf would be a part of it. I don't know if I'd do batting cages, even though they're super popular here. No new. I would never do used rides anymore. We're done with that. We only want to do new rides. We want to get some good use out of them before they get the wear and tear in. So probably not like the scrambler and stuff like that we have. That's the used ride stuff. I think Malibu Jacks and Scene 75, they're doing a lot of the right kind of stuff. And so, you don't want to, it's okay. I'm not going to say you don't want to be the person who is the first person doing it. We were a first in a lot of realms. Well, we weren't first with the go-kart track. That was a big step for us. But there are things that we have done that we kind of put the stamp on being the first FEC really to try it. The RFID wristbands, we were the first ones really to jump in head over feet on that. And there's growing pains with that. We were the test park. We didn't know it until we were doing it, but we were the test park for that. We don't want to be in a position, or I wouldn't want to be in a position of being the person testing out to see if it's going to work or not. I would rather talk to all of the other FECs, see what is working, and then mimic the things that are working and dump the things that aren't.
That's funny you mentioned the RFID thing because my next question, and honestly, this was not planned. Uh, arcades or well, FECs can use tickets or coins or whatever. What's your system like? Is the RFID associated with that?
Yeah, so this is IAPA like 2016, 2017. We knew we were getting rid of our old core card system, and we were getting ready to update to Center Edge for our POS system. This is going to be the most boring conversation for anybody listening, by the way. We went from roller coasters to POS systems and card readers. But no, Center Edge is our POS system, and Embed is our card reader system. They work together to make the system work, or the business work. And when I was at IAPA, they showed us the RFID capabilities on the Embed readers, which the Embed readers also are in all Dave and Buster's parks, but they have their own like behind the scenes software that run it and everything. So it's a little different, but the card readers are exactly the same. Um, And so they showed us the RFID system, and I was like, "Oh, this is what we need. That you need to be able to put these wristbands on. The theft goes away. All of these different things that we were experiencing." And so we immediately upgraded to their new system at the floor before our system shipped. But what I didn't know was that we were the first park to buy into their RFID wristband system, or at least into the scale that we were doing it, because we were and still are buying 100,000 wristbands a year. And that's a huge amount of wristbands going through our park, and all of them are individually barcoded and RFID chipped, and they have to work, in all the different aspects of the system. And so, it was a challenge the first few months that we had the system because it wasn't working properly. But once we got the bugs worked out, it is a phenomenal way to use the embed and center edge system. They get a wristband. It's a plastic one-time use wristband that they put on RFID chips in there. If they take it off, they can't put the wristband back on. It's like one of those water park wristbands. Like once it rips, it's done. So there's no theft in the system. Nobody out in the parking lot saying, "Hey, I got an all-day wristband. Here you go." None of that going on anymore. And yeah, I mean, it's simple. You just tap and go, tap and go. So we love it.
All right, Clint, video games. It's one thing to install an expensive video game, but these can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So how do you justify that expense?
Well, okay. What do you guys know what the most popular video game is on the market?
No, no.
I do not.
Okay. Have you guys seen the Wizard of Oz pusher machine?
Oh yeah.
So, okay, it's a Wizard of Oz game, 6 players, 6 sides. There's a pusher arm. There's
Mhm.
coins in there, and you're trying to win the cards. Is what you're trying to do. So that game is right now in the 70,000 range for a 6-player. But that is our number one game. It makes more than that every year. So really, it's like we have to have that game in order to be a good arcade. We have that. We have the Willy Wonka version. There's a new Fast and Furious game that came out. I don't know if you guys saw that at IAPA. It could be a 2-player, 4-player double screen. They're vertical double screen, so it goes really tall. And they sit right next to each other, and their motion. So it's like the seat moves with you driving, and it's Fast and Furious IP. I think those are running 50,000 a seat, if I remember correctly. So yeah, for 4 of them, it's no, I'm sorry, 25,000 a seat. For 4 of them, actually, I think it's 30,000. 30,000 a seat, and for 4 of them, it's like just over 100,000. So, video games and this stuff can be super expensive, and a lot of people don't understand how huge of an investment the arcade is. But there's no labor component to it, or very little labor component. So you're only paying to repair the games, and you have to have staff that are repairing, cleaning, doing that kind of stuff. But with the volume of people who are actually using it at any given time, it's a must have. So that's the first thing that I would do is build an arcade and then build around that. So if you have a really good arcade, that's when you start sprinkling in the SBF spin coaster, the ropes course, laser tag, mini bowling, all of those kind of things.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I didn't know that about Wizard of Oz. I know that there was some real like obsession with that over the past several years with people trying to collect it. And I know like Toto is a really valuable card and so on. So that's kind of cool. So but to expand on Don's question, even if you had the Fast and the Furious ride for $30,000 a seat, so the 110,000, whatever it ends up being, that's small potatoes compared to adding like an SBF Visa spinning coaster or a drop tower or whatever. How do you justify that? So the question really isn't so much do you think that you'll make your money back on the actual rides? The spirit of my question is more that do you feel like adding these large scale rides and attractions add increasing value as in driving attendance and possible per capita spending within the facility outside of the ride itself?
Yes, and no. So really, what we're trying to sell is wristbands. We're the idea that we want to, like, you can come and you can do any individual ride or attraction by just paying the price. Oh, it's $10 to do the ropes course, or $8 to do the new rides, or $10 to do the go-karts. But once you start doing all of those individual rides, they all add up, and you're like, why am I not just doing the wristband? So we're adding the new rides and attractions, so people come in and they say, oh, I'm buying the wristband, and they just buy the wristband, and they get their best value out of it, and they get to go around and do all the rides and attractions. So that being said, are we getting the return on investment on the ride or attraction? When you put it in, it's hard to tell at first, because again, most of the rides you're giving are not complimentary, but they're part of the wristband package. So you only see what the very little money that's actually coming in from the play value being spent on it. But then at the end of the year, we take all of the money that was earned in wristbands, and then we delegate it off to the rides and attractions based off of their popularity. So that all 100% of the wristband earnings are delegated out to the rides. And that's really when we're going to see, how a ride did. Did it make the money back, or, how much more time do we have on it? And so far, there has not been a ride that we have put in that has not made a return on investment. So,
All right, Clint, when you're your age, you're still young enough, you look down the road. When you're my age, you don't really look too much further than what's around the corner. So, having said that, where do you see Funland 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now?
well, Funland is about 30 years old right now. So, I definitely see it continuing to grow. We'll see some of the older rides phase out. We'll see newer rides obviously come in. But as we've really expanded very quickly in the last 8 years. And there's a lot of things that are not ride related that we want to do. We want to upgrade our kitchen and make a better dining experience, and add the full bar. And we have a temporary bar right now, but we want a sports bar atmosphere. There's things like that. I also don't want to limit myself to just this park. Like, I would like to, like, obviously we have Funland of Fairfax as well, but it's a very different park, and I wouldn't be opposed to going outside of that. How far else could we expand? Could we build another Funland from the ground up, or do we buy another FEC and label Funland on it? What could we do from there? And I always say, I'm pretending to be the GM. Any day, we don't have a salesperson right now, so a lot of my time's dedicated to sales calls and emails and getting group sales in. So it's like I'm pretending to be a group salesperson, which is funny, because the very first position I interviewed for at Funland was for the group sales position, and they turned me down for it. And now I'm doing it reluctantly because we don't have that person. But I don't know exactly where my skills would be able to transfer over to, but I have no clue where I will be, or Funland will be in the future. But I know it's going. If the last 8 years are any indication, it's going to be totally different from where we're at now.
Well, Clint, you said a lot, but all I heard was RMC confirmed for Funland. So for those of you who are tuning into our live broadcast, which
It's all over
yeah,
Twitter.
it's
Oh,
trending
good,
on
good.
RMC at Fredericksburg. Okay, totally made up by me. For those of you
Really,
tuning in late,
really more coming, guys. Really more coming.
oh my word. So okay, just before we wrap things up with this portion of the show, can you tell us your website, where to find you on social, where the FEC is exactly, things like that?
Sure. Yep. Visit funland.com. You'll find both of our parks there. So the Fairfax Park, the Fredericksburg Park, you'll find both of them there. Um, yeah, I mean, me and my wife also do Happily Ever Novak. So that's where all the crazy vlogs of our travels go. So when we're out traveling, doing King's Dominion, or any of the other FECs or any of that stuff, that's where we like to throw the YouTube videos up there. And then, of course, where I got my big start with In the Loop, doing all that stuff, In the Loop podcast, and they have their YouTube channel. I don't do a lot of contributing to the channel itself, but still hang out and chat with the guys there. So
Very cool. And we'll link to all that in the description of both the podcast and the YouTube description.
All right, now it's time for one of Ryan and I's favorite parts of the podcast, Clint. It is called the Pick Six.
Cue ominous music. All right. All right. So the pick six, for those of you who are new to the show, by the way, welcome if you're new to the show. It's when we choose six different stories that kind of stuck out to us over the past week or so, primarily in the amusement, theme park, FEC, entertainment industry. There's a Bucky's one in there, just as a spoiler alert, because Don insists upon things like that. But we're going to pick six items and we're going to discuss them. So, number one, oh God, it's number one. New Bucky's in Ocala, Florida, and perhaps Wisconsin. Don, take it away.
I think it's great. There's just not enough Bucky's out there right now. I think there should be a Bucky's every 300 miles across the country. I think that would be awesome, and at this kind of pace, maybe 20 years from now there is. But, Ocala, that is confirmed. I think that's a great, great spot for a Bucky's. The idea of Wisconsin, that's a little off the beaten path from where they normally go. But that one's just in the discussion stage right now. But I think it's great, the way they're growing. And, every couple, weeks, I see another alert that they're looking at this market or that market. And it gives me hope that one day there will be a Bucky's within maybe like 30, 40 miles
I
from my
just wonder
house.
if it was that close, if it wouldn't be special anymore. Because we have to make effort to go to Bucky's where we are now. So,
Well, I think there is a little bit to that, Ryan. I do think that, the fact that the closest one to us is on the other side of
mm,
Lexington. So what about 2 hours, 2 hours,
right.
15 minutes or whatever. So, I mean, there is that to it where it does seem very special that it's not something you can do, every day or maybe every week. But I don't think I'd ever get tired of eating like the melt
Right.
sandwiches or the briskets, those kind of things. They always have new merchandise coming in. So I think to me it would still be, that magic would still be there if I was there every, maybe every week
Yeah,
or two
I
weeks.
mean, but
What
I
about you,
also
Clint?
think that there might be something to it in which it's halfway to Dollywood, and that's almost always where you're going when you stop at Bucky's. So, like, you associate that excitement with it. Clint, you ever been to Bucky's before?
I have not, but I've seen the coaster community explode every time they're traveling to Florida or Dollywood or any of that stuff. I see the posts all the time. So I just recently learned in, like, I would say the last 6 months, what a Bucky's is.
Mm,
And yeah, I normally when I'm traveling, I don't drive anymore. I fly everywhere because I don't want to waste the time of the drive.
yeah.
Uh, and so I've been flying all the time. So I don't know, when I will get that chance, but I'm sure it will happen. Because everybody's talking about it.
It is something that it's life changing. Okay, let's just put it that way. So you definitely have to make a stop there, and as soon as you do, after your experience, let Ryan and I know what your thoughts were on that. All right, number two on the pick six. A California man, he set a world record after visiting Disneyland. Now, listen to this number here: 2,995 consecutive days.
So,
Thoughts on that, Clint?
Well, okay, 2000. I'm doing the math. I just opened the calculator on the computer. 2,900 and what?
95 days.
95 days. So divide that
2,995.
by 365. So he went every single day for 8 years. I I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's commitment. I mean, that is definitely. If they had a meal plan, I would understand why. Because I'm at King's Dominion all the time for the meal plan. So
uh, well,
Ryan?
first of all, I I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody in the room that like rode the racer a couple tens of thousands of times, but if you went every day for 8 years, like how many birthday parties and holidays did he skip to go to Disneyland? I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I feel like there is an allure to like I could basically live at Disneyland. But first of all, I question the number because they were closed for like a year for COVID, so they weren't consecutive visits. I think the article kind of implies that.
Well, yeah, well, consecutive when they've been open to operate, kind of a thing, and the seasonal parks, they have people that have been there consecutive days, when they're open, with that. But I get what you're saying there, Ryan, about missing some different things. But it depends. What we don't know is how far did he live from Disneyland? Did he just walk in and get a soft drink and leave? I mean, we
Yeah.
don't know the extent of that. But the other piece of this for me would be, okay, you're trying to, he came out and said he wanted to set, that kind of record from the beginning. But I hope that he still loved going there every day and it didn't become, like where it's like work, I have to go and to keep that consecutive streak going. So that would be my thing is, was it authentic and he loved it? And, that 2,995th consecutive visit was as enjoyable and fun as the first one. That's where my head is, was he able to sustain the enjoyment and the thrill of it
Yeah,
all?
I don't remember reading this in the article or not, but did he stop at that number or is he still going?
I thought it came across as though he stopped because there was a thing where in one article where he said that he was looking forward to going again at some point.
Oh wow.
So I think he got the record and stopped.
Well, okay. Why was the
Uh,
record? Was the record 2,994?
it didn't
Oh,
say. We don't know.
okay.
But here's the other thing: you're 5 days away, 5 visits away from 3,000. Why didn't you just make it 3,000
Didn't
visits?
I
Right? If you're
remember
that
you telling
close,
me that you didn't wanna hit, like, 13,000 rides on the racer because you wanted your obituary to sound weird with saying 12,993 or something rather than
no, no. Well, no. Before I went to 12,000, and I only did that because my daughter wanted to ride it with me, so I did it and hit 12,000. But I was at 1,000 or 11,999, and I just thought to myself, that would be a cool number to stop on. And then, my obituary would say, he did this, this, this. He also rode the racer 11,999 times, and everybody like, oh my gosh, he passed one ride shy of 12,000.
he's 2 days
So
from
I thought that'd be kind of
retirement,
fun.
just like the cops in every action
Yeah, but
movie.
that's kind of my thing is, I would do something odd like that. So if I, got the racer to a certain number where it was like, and I knew that I was getting to that point where I really couldn't ride anymore, yeah, I would stop at one short just so it would be kind of, a fun thing to play in an obituary.
Clint, is your, visit count for Dominion anywhere near this?
I think I did 80 something visits this past year. I don't get to go consecutively because, like, right now, they're open from 11 to 5. And I work 11 to 5 on Saturdays and Sundays. So it's like I don't get the opportunity. But like when Haunt and Winterfest is going on, I can go every day because I get out of here at like 6 or 7. I can get down there easily and still make, a couple hours, get dinner, watch a show, support my friends, and then call it a day. So yeah, I think I did like 80 visits last year, and right now we're already in month 3, and I've only got 2 visits this year. So I think 3. I did 3 visits this year. So it's in the fall and winter is really when I catch up.
Yeah, okay, so let's clarify this, and Don, you're completely with this as well because I remember a 1,000th visit celebration for you too, but for those of us, and that's all 3 of us that visit often, to clarify, for those of you who aren't on that page, so when I go to Kings Island, for example, my home park, I'm in the 80 to 90 visit range, per year. My job is very structured, 8 to 4:30. I'm a stockbroker, so whenever the market's open, which is most days except for holidays, Monday through Friday. So that gives me plenty of time to go there. And people think like you must have ridden Diamondback 1,000 times. Well, no. I go there, I meet with my friends. It could be any well, I mean, we particularly like that place, but
Mhm.
we go and we hang out. If you go that often, you might ride a ride. Often you don't. So there's a social aspect to it. A lot of people will meet in the park or anything like that, but probably for you, Clint, you probably go with your wife quite a bit, right? So it's almost like a date night, and you walk around, and you
Yeah,
know,
well, yep, I go by myself. I go more than she does. So like, I think she was in the 60s to 70s, and I broke 80. But so there are some days where I'll just go down by myself. But that's because she has a Monday through Friday job, and I don't. I have a job where I'm working all the time, and occasionally get off, on the weekdays or whatever to do whatever I want. But yeah, I mean, when we go down, it's definitely more social than riding. This year, I mean, we went down this past Sunday. We met up with some Ace friends. They were doing they're doing the Flights and Bites. So we wanted to experience that. So we did the Flights and Bites. She drank wine. I don't drink. So I ate food. And we just enjoyed the atmosphere. And then we walked around, checked out some things around the park, and then left. We didn't ride anything. And there's several times, like during haunt, I will do the houses all the time. I'll do houses and do scare zones, but that's because I know so many of the people who are involved with all of the houses and scare zones and the actors in them and the supervisors and all those people. And so I feel like it's my prerogative of being a fan of theirs that I have to go support them and go check out all the stuff that they're doing and just pass through and give them high fives and give them the support that that they're doing a great job, and do the same thing in Winterfest. So it's like, a lot of times we just go, we watch a show, eat, have some food, catch up with the different people, supervisors, managers at the park, and then head out. But I live closer to King's Dominion than I do Funland. So I live 26 miles away from Funland, and I live 12 miles away from King's
So
Dominion.
why aren't you the GM of King's Dominion then?
That's what I'm saying. We need okay. I'm not saying Bridget is doing awesome. So, but Bridget, you're not going to be there forever. You will get promoted. I'm here waiting for you. So you just let me know.
So I don't.
The only caveat is that if I get hired at King's Dominion, they have to let me wear the beanie, right?
I'm surprised you don't wear it at
Yeah.
Funland.
The owner said he didn't want me to wear the beanie at Funland, so I don't wear it at
But
Funland.
doesn't he realize the beanie sells tickets?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't mean to get off topic. Do we have time for a quick story?
This is our podcast, so
We have all
yeah.
the time in the world.
We got
Clint.
as much time as I do hard drive space.
There you go. Okay, so the owner of Funland, before, like, right as we're expanding at a crazy level, he owned another company. And so I was the GM here, and I had been going to IAPA for 15 years. And when he owned the other company, it was a gaming company, a lot of machines and arcade games at malls and movie theaters. And so he would spend all of his time with this other company, and we would get him for 2 hours on like Thursday at IAPA to show him what we wanted to do. And the first year after he sold the big company, he was like, "Oh, well, now I'm going to IAPA with you guys." And he walked around the trade show floor, and everybody knew who I was. So we're walking past, RMC. We're walking past the Honolulu hot dog stand, and they're like, "Clint, you don't wait in line. Come over here. You get hot dogs." It's like I've been interviewing these people for 15 years, so of course they know who I am. And the owner was dumbfounded. Like, he's walking around going, "How do all these people know who you are? And why are you getting free hot dogs from those people over there?" Like, it was just a big shock to him. And I mean, a lot of that pulls into what you're just saying. The beanie, like, it's like it's the trademark. Although IAPA won't let me wear the beanie either. So
Really?
they said when we first went for our first media day, when they were in Georgia, or not media day, as a media in the loop, I explained to them. I said I have a trademark propeller beanie that I wear to all the parks. And they said we would prefer you not. And so whoever said that, I don't even remember who said it, but whoever said it has been the staple ever since. So and they said we prefer you not to wear the beanie as part of the press at IAPA, and it has since never shown up at IAPA.
Yep. Well, they came for the beanie hats. They're gonna come for the Hawaiian shirts eventually, because I think you remember that was our attire. But
I expect us, Ryan, to get a memo about
yeah,
that.
of course. Okay, well, let's move on before you get us in trouble. Okay. So, Universal has filed for a patent for an interactive theme park character and wand technology. So, looking at an article on this, obviously, I'm guessing that this is going to be some sort of Harry Potter relation, but according to bizjournals.com, Universal has filed a new technology patent to make your next visit to its theme parks in Orlando more interactive. Here are the details. It's probably not going to be your next visit if it's a patent. But basically, the article goes on to say that they want to have passive interactions with the wands with walking characters. So I'm guessing if you have the wand and you walk past a character, uh, the character somehow reacts to it. I mean, Does that make any sense to you? Is that your understanding? These patents are always because it comes down to your imagination as to how it will be employed. It's more this just tells you how it's done rather than why it's done. So Universal's always filing for patents, man. Always stuff like this. Don, what are your thoughts?
You got to protect what's yours with that. But no, I mean, I think it's an interesting, concept. I think anytime that you can do things that makes it interactive for the guest, as long as it works, what you're trying to do, I think it's a good thing. What about you, Clint?
I didn't get a chance to read the article, but so many things pop up in my head when you say that. And to me, it's not just limited to Universal. It's like, oh, well, I mean, yes, it's limited to Universal, but it's like Halloween Horror Nights. Like, what could they be doing, with that? Controlling the scare, with RFID wands or something like that. But yeah, I definitely sounds like an immersive experience, and they already kind of have that technology, using the wands and stuff to control different elements inside the park, but taking it a step further to have the ability to do something with characters is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think that the key difference is that it's like they mentioned that it's passively affecting the characters. So I don't know if that necessarily means you don't have to shake the wand like you do at the interactive windows and stuff and in the Harry Potter world, or what exactly that means, to be honest with you. But I guess we'll see in a few years, hopefully.
All right, number 4 on the pick six. Six Flags, they've released the names of 2 new Skyline attractions coasters. Kid Flash. We're going to start with you, Ryan. Your thoughts on the names?
So Kid Flash, fine with the name. The concepts look beautiful. So Skyline Attractions, full disclosure, friend of the show, Jeff Pike's been a guest on the show earlier. This has the Aurora package, which is a light up track, which is freaking beautiful. So they sold 2 of these Piscetti Bowl models. Both of them they're racing coasters. I think one's going to Fiesta, Texas. The other one's going to Six Flags Over Georgia. Um, and huge breakthrough for Skyline. This is going to be their year. It was funny. I told Jeff, I said, I've got a feeling this is going to be your year. And I think I called it correctly. Clint, what are your thoughts on it? What do you think about Skyline attractions?
Well, I mean, obviously, a big fan of those guys, and everything that they're doing. And this was something that we were looking at, not necessarily to purchase, but wanted to make sure that we're watching, because uh, they're filling a niche that a lot of other companies are not filling right now. So obviously SBF Visa is filling that niche of kid-friendly coasters in a small, compact footprint. But you're not seeing that from your Inaman or Zamperla or any of the bigger companies. Their coasters are usually bigger, and so. Yeah, I mean, I love the design. I love the layout. I love the lighting. I saw the lighting at IAPA. It looked super cool on the track. So I hope it's a huge success for them, really.
Don, what are your thoughts?
I'm on the same page that both of you are. Just looked beautiful. We saw it on the IAPA, the display and everything they had up there. Uh, big fan of, Jeff Pike and those, with Skyline. So I'm excited to, see how this helps them, puts them on the map a little bit. And, maybe you see more of these going around the country.
Yep. Like I said, I called it when we had probably off camera, but I called it. I said, Jeff, this is going to be your year. And I think this is it.
Yeah. And those, a lot of times, you look at parks, they're landlocked, those kind of things. And, you don't need a lot of real estate, a lot of land to put one of these in. So I think that, it's going to be interesting to see how these, the reception to the 2 rides. And I think it's going to open the door for Skyline to get in a lot more parks down
Yeah,
the
I
road.
think they found their niche. I think they've got a beautiful product. Hopefully it goes well. Look forward to riding it. It's going to be, if anything, it'll be a beautiful looking ride because that Aurora package is going to be really, really cool. Okay.
Yeah, if you're a photographer, you're going to love it at night,
Absolutely.
probably.
Okay. So in other news, SeaWorld San Diego, they don't want your cash anymore. Don't get excited. They still want your money, but they're going cashless, which is something that I completely support. Kings Island was the first park I know about to go cashless, and now it is industry wide. But I've personally observed it speeding up transactions. It makes everything faster. It makes everything simpler. I feel like the transition was easier than I kind of anticipated it would be. Um, Kudos to that. Clint, what are your thoughts? Does Fredericksburg Funland take cash still, and what are your plans with that?
Yes, and I don't think we're going to phase that out anytime soon. We still have people who show up with bags of quarters, thinking that's how they're going to operate the game. So, yes, I think for now we will be continuing to accept cash. But it's very interesting to see the dynamic and see the way the different directions. Like we have a minor league ballpark in Fredericksburg for the Fredericksburg Nationals, and they're a totally cashless ballpark. And so it's always been that way. You know, your tickets are on your phone. You know, they've been open for 2 years, totally cashless. I went to my barber the other day, and I've been getting my hair cut there for 8 years. And I walked in, got my hair cut, paid with a credit card, but they wouldn't let me put the tip on the credit card. And they said, you have to, from now on, you have to tip in cash. And I said, I don't carry cash. And so it's like, I wasn't a jerk, but I can't go back to that barber now because I want to be able to tip them, but I'm not going to go to a place where I can't, you know, like they're forcing me to use cash. I don't have the ability to, okay, I have the ability. I just don't have the desire to use cash. So I never carry it with me.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a good move for SeaWorld San Diego. And I think other SeaWorld parks do it. SeaWorld Orlando's cashless, aren't they?
I was there during IAPA week, but I don't remember them being cashless or not. That you know what? I think they might have been. I'm not certain of that. Let me ask you this, Clint, because you're a good like test subject matter for many things, but for this specifically, what percentage of your business would you say is in cash right now?
Oh, that's a good question. It's going to be less than 30%. You know, it's most of it's going to be credit card transactions.
And then, do you think that the SG&A overhead costs for having cash justifies that 30%, or do you think those people would transition over?
Well, 30, no, I think again, people show up with, you know, a sack full of quarters and want to play video games. So we want to give them the ability. We don't want to say no to any guest. So we will continue taking the cash. Also, there's a weird amount of kids who come and they only have cash because they don't have, you know, they're 10 years old. They're on a field trip. They don't have the ability to do anything but cash. You know, there are a lot of instances like that. So I think we'll continue to take cash unless something drastic happens.
Yeah, I'm glad we had this conversation because Don and I had an episode very early on about going cashless, and we positioned it like, of course you're going to go cashless, but you make some good points there. You know, it's not necessarily appropriate for everybody because there are technology limitations. You know, you have to have
Mhm.
that card converter and stuff like that. But yeah, thanks for the insight. Don, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think the industry as a whole is going to go cashless in the next 5 years or so? Or
I don't think everybody will. I think there's going to be those parks that are still those old, traditional parks. They don't have the infrastructure and the technology and the budgets to do those kind of things to make it a cashless system. So I think it's always going to, um, you're going to have those parks that are still going to have, taking the cash. But personally, I'm a big fan of it. My first experience with a cashless venue was the Tampa Bay Rays. They were the first to do that, introduce it, the very innovative organization. And what I noticed from them, going to the game was that, my wait time to get food, to get merchandise was much less. So I wasn't missing part of the action waiting in line. So I was a big fan of that. And then the parks that I've gone to their cashless, same thing, where, it's just more efficient, and I'm spending less time in line. And that's a win, for me. And I don't have to worry about, carrying cash or, what happens if I lose, my wallet and the cash. So I don't have to bring any money into a lot of these venues now. And for me, I look at that as a plus. But like I said, Clint made a good point about, the kids that are 10 years old, they don't have credit cards, so they've got to carry cash. The parents give them cash. So I think there's always going to be those places that, cash is still going to be in play. But I do think you will see more of the bigger parks moving toward a cashless system if they aren't already there.
Awesome.
I would love to know from a place that does totally cashless. Obviously there's theft in cash, so there's reasons why you're moving away from that. But there's also a lot of chargebacks, and so the theft in credit is more on the guest's perspective. So like somebody steals a credit card, uses it at a cashless place, and then they cancel that credit card, and then there's a chargeback. So I wonder if I would love to know, like, okay, what they thought their theft numbers were before they went cashless, and then what their chargebacks are after they went cashless, to see if there's still that same number of theft happening, just in a different way.
Well, I'll tell you this:
Yeah.
the theft involved in going cashless is all about employee theft when it comes to cash,
Yeah.
and clerical errors too. But I think it might offset because a lot of people are going that way. Okay, moving on, Don.
Number 6, the final of the pick six. Six Flags. They're bringing haunts to spring with the new Scream Break event. Clint, your thoughts on that?
I don't know what it is.
So basically, they're running a version of their haunt, but it's going to be during spring break. Do you like that idea?
Okay. Well, I like that. I mean, yeah, anything you can do that is going to be out of the norm, that's going to create traffic, I think is a great idea. So, yeah, I mean, it would be definitely interesting to see what they do. I know our local haunt here did a Christmas Day and a Valentine's Day haunt. So it's like the ones that are like in the woods that are at a farm. They did a Christmas weekend where they did everything was Christmas themed, and then they did another Valentine's Day one. So I think that's an interesting idea from Six Flags. See if it works.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, haunt super popular. You're going to sell tickets. Make sure the word's out there, and you got it. All right. Well, that brings us to the end. So, Don, any final words of wisdom?
A lot of insights, from Clint that we appreciate about the FECs. We want to get out to experience yours when Ryan and I are in that Virginia area, hoping to get there this summer. So we'll certainly check it out. But just really appreciate your time, and I think we learned a lot. I think we grew as people tonight.
I agree.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And just one last time, your website and your location.
Yep. Funland of Fredericksburg. You can visit us at visitfunland.com.
Visitfunland.com. Two convenient locations in Fredericksburg and Fairfax, right?
There you go. They're 50 miles apart, but they could be 6 hours apart depending on traffic.
Exactly. I've been on that road. Awesome. Well, thank you once again, Clint, so much for being on the show. So full disclosure, there will not be a show next week. Prior obligations do not allow us to record, so we will not be weekly at this time, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're not going anywhere with another special episode of the Attractions Group podcast. Good night, everybody.